Okay, hi guys. So we're going to talk about drawing cars today. This is just a little sports car I drew. Just to let you know that this paper right here is 13 inches long, and I recommend 13 to 14 inches. Now the problem is it's not in your view, your vanishing points. So if you go this direction, your vanishing points is at the corner on this side, like this. And then over on this way, the vanishing point's over here. Now, if you do a shorter piece of paper, the difficulty is if you move it in, you get some distortion in that your object isn't sleek enough. And you're going to find that you're not going to like your drawing as much unless you really spread out your vanishing points a little bit. I also find that if I do it too small, you guys can't see the detail work. So, with that said, you want a piece of paper about 13 inches long or 14. Okay, or you can just put a regular notebook piece of paper in the middle of the paper, and then farther out here, just put your vanishing points on a piece of paper behind them. You just have to tape it down so it doesn't move. So your vanishing points are about 13 inches apart to 14 inches apart here. This is your horizon line. Okay, so this is what we're going to be doing today. Now, I want you to look at this little drawing that I have here. This one right here is the same, basically the same drawing. I don't measure everything perfectly, but I've been working on how to help you with some proportions and not give you too much information, because cars can be quite complicated, especially if you're trying to do them like you're trying to sell the car, so you have to get everything perfect. But for us, we're just really trying to draw a cool car and get the basics down. So with that said, what I want you to understand is this corner is the closest to you. To the right, all your lines go to the right vanishing point. So the bottom of the car, the top of the car. To the left, all your lines go to the left vanishing point. The actual horizon line, which is where land meets sky, is running through the back here of this drawing. Okay, it's running through the back. That's actually the horizon line. So this portion of your car is about 2/3 of your car, and this portion of your car is about 1/3. So you can get two of these into this space. Okay, so that'll help you with proportions. So 1/3, 2/3. The other thing is that if you look at the length of the car, the width of the sports car is a little bit less than half. So if I believe that this is 4 inches on the way that I'm drawing this, then half of 4 inches would be 2 inches, and a little less than 2 inches, I'm just going to guess, is 1.75. So that's how I did this. And I am going to have you do a little bit of measuring just to get your proportions right. It'll help you in drawing in the future, and you'll understand if we walk you through it. So that's where we're going next. Now, I already put my horizon line through the middle of my paper. I have a vanishing point to the right and a vanishing point to the left in this picture. So they're going out in these directions in this drawing. I'm going to be putting my car in the middle so you can see it well. Now, I want to have the top of the car be 1/3 and the bottom of the car be 2/3. So what you're going to need to do, once you've got your line, 13-inch piece of paper, line running across it, vanishing point on each side, okay? The next thing you're going to want to do is a 1.5-inch line. So this is going to be the corner of the car. The length of the car this way, the width of the car is this way. So a 1/2 inch above, okay, would be right here, and 1 inch below. So I'm just going to draw a little bit of a vertical line here, and then this is the top. This is my 1/2 inch, so this is where the windows are, and then this is my second line. So basically this is 2/3, this is 1/3. So 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. So 1.5 inches with a 1/2 inch above. Okay? Then take your ruler and go to your right vanishing point and the bottom and draw yourself a really light line. Now, if I do a really light line, you will be in trouble because you won't be able to see it. and there's no way you can get there. So I have to draw pretty hard on these drawings for you to see them. You're also going to do the same at the top of your drawing. Now this sort of, we're setting up a box that your car goes in. So in general, if you were to draw a car, you go, okay, 1/3 is the top of the car, 2/3 is the bottom of the car. This is the corner of my car. Great. Okay. Now we got to think about this portion here being almost a little bit more than double what that is. Okay. So just for this lesson, just to make it easy on you and so you can understand proportions a little bit, you just estimate. So we're going to go to 4 inches and draw ourselves a vertical line. Make sure it's vertical. Okay. Now, half of 4 inches is 2. We want this side to be a little less than half. So we're just going to go 1.75. So I'm going to figure out where 1.75 is. And I'm going to draw myself a vertical line here. Okay, now I've got my box. Now I've got the left side of my car and the right side of my car. The next important thing is to find out the middle of both vehicles. And both sides of the vehicle. Like, what is the right side of the car? What is the left side of the car? Finding that midpoint in your car. Okay, so what happens here is that any 4-sided object, if you draw an X in it, I'm not going to draw all the way, like this, it will tell you where the center is in perspective. Okay, so this is my little X. This is my box here. This is my box here. You'll wonder why you need to know that. That helps you with getting the dimensions of the car correctly and in proportion to each other. So here, that is the center here. So remember, this is in perspective. So I'm just going to draw a line right here for the center of the car. Now you're probably wondering why I'm only going to that line. And that is because this is where the hood is. Okay, so I really don't need to go any higher than that. This one here, I only need to go to this line because then I'm going to angle in. Okay, this is just a guide. So I have to have a wheel here and I have to have a wheel here in this drawing. So I've got to have my front wheel and I have to have my back wheel. So let's go back and just kind of look at this drawing here. Okay, so this was the midpoint of my car. This was the back that we drew. This is the corner. This is the front. So that's what we're talking right here. This is the midpoint. Why do I need to know that? Because this midpoint lines up in most cars in front of the door. Okay, so it's usually somewhere in this area here. Now, if you wanted to look at a car profile, you could look at it side view, find where the midpoint hits, and then that would help you know where to draw it. So you could really be more specific on it, but I'm trying to give you some stuff to just make it generic. And most of your cars will turn out really good. If you want to get way more technical in your drawings, I highly recommend that you just take more drawing car videos, okay? So this is just your basics. Okay, so here we go. We got to get a tire here, and we got to get a tire here. Now notice this tire has to be bigger than this one because we're going towards our vanishing point. Our tires are going to be lower than the bottom of the car. We already have that line. Okay, now in looking at this design, usually you don't have a lot back here. There's not usually a big tail on a sports car. So in putting the first one in, right, we need to be a little bit shorter than this line. This is the line where you indent to the window. So we're going to be a little bit shorter than that. So I'm just going a little bit shorter. But both tires are going to be like that. So I'm going to go vanishing point to that line. I know I need a tire about that height and a tire about that height. Okay. The next thing is that your tires are lower on the ground than the bottom of the car. So you need to also do that underneath. Putting in the bottom of the tire and the bottom of the tire. Okay. Now I need an oval shape because remember that you're looking at these at an angle. This is from the perspective that you're sitting right here. You're looking right and you're looking left. So with that said, You know that the back of the door is right about here. There's usually not a ton of space here, okay? So we'll go ahead and put in your oval tire right here. If you think you left too much here, you could always bring this in a little bit, or you could just move this tire over, okay? So I'm going to just write my oval here. Okay, that's my back tire. Now I already know that my front tire is going to look bigger because it's higher. I've got the top and the bottom so that my tires are the same. Now the nose does tend to be a little big. So I don't really want to get dead center, you know, and it's in perspective. So I'm going to move a little bit further back here, okay? And I'm just estimating where this is. So here's my front tire and here's my back tire. That's what that line was for, just to help you in perspective to visualize it. So with that said, I might as well put in this door line right here where you open the door. So when you look at a car, the other thing that happens here is, well, let's erase that because that line's not running through there anymore. Okay, now you're going to be able to erase better than me. But if you do some erasing as you're going, you'll get a little less confused with all these lines running around. So I'm going to help you here. So here's your tires. Because you're seeing it at an angle, you actually see your hubcap right about here, and then maybe a little bit of a rim or a white wall right on the edge there. And then your oval here for your hubcap, and then here. And then you're going to see your tire, and you're going to see a little tiny bit of the wheel well. A little tiny bit of the wheel well, okay? Then what happens here is this angles over to that vanishing point. So it angles to the left, and so does this one. Now you've got your tire too wide. So all you do is just bring this line in right here, just a little bit, and right here. And so that's the inside of your wheel well, inside of your wheel well. Everybody got that? Okay, now your tire has thickness. So remember that left vanishing point? That's where we see the thickness of our tire. And down here is where we see the thickness of our tire, going to the left vanishing point. So this is how we see that, you know, how fat is that tire. I'm going to let you just estimate it. Okay, so there's my tire underneath the car. Now I have two tires in perspective with a little bit of a wheel well behind. Let's go ahead and put in, there's usually some sort of like line down here. Sometimes it's like a piece of silver molding. Sometimes it's just part of the bottom of the door. There's usually something there. Now we know that the door is behind this line. So I'm going to angle up a little bit because that usually angles in. Then I'm going to come up to about the center here. And the reason I wanted that center is that's really almost always close to where it starts angling in. Okay, so what happens here is this is where it angles in to the edge of the window. So this is the side of my car. Okay, this door is bigger. And if it's looking a little odd to you, you can always move it back. If you go into it and you go, well, gosh, I don't think that there's that much space behind it, just move it over a little bit. You're estimating. It'll be easier if you look at a photo of a car when you're trying to reference it. It'll help you with doing it. So I just moved it up a little bit. I really don't need that line anymore. That was just for me to know where the middle of the car was. So I can get rid of that too. Okay, now I've got the side of the car here. I'm doing much better. Let's go back and get the back of the car. Usually this part angles up in most cars and comes on up. So I can go ahead and do that, angle that up. Don't worry about lights and bumpers and things like that right now, okay? Then this is going to be the line where my windows are. So what happens here is you get a little bit of a slant for your window. And then this is my back window. So I would have a little bit of a back window here. Okay, like that. And then I would have the back roof of my car. And it could be a straight diagonal line. I'm going to draw it kind of coming in and then around like this. So that's the back of the car. You can see how that looks like the back of a car. Okay. Probably wouldn't see that full line there. You might see an indentation there, but you wouldn't really see a line there. So got the back of my car in. Now I need the front of my car. And the fronts of the car almost always angle in some way or another. So I am going to angle, or they curve here. So I'm going to go ahead and angle that. This part here would angle in right there. So I'll go ahead and do that. Give a little bit of an angle there. Okay, there's the bottom of my car. And then I've got to figure out where this attaches. Usually you get a little bit of an angle into this line on a sports car. And then we're going to slightly angle back like this and come into this window. Okay, so slightly angle back, angling forward here. And I've got my door. There's my door. My door's in, my back window's in. Now I need the front of my car. Well, this part usually splits off, sometimes really thin, sometimes thicker, depending on the car, right? Okay, so what's happening here is I've got to get the nose of the car to get the rest of it in. Hope you guys are following me. If you're getting confused, don't forget, pause, 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 okay? Now, I've got this little curve here, so what am I going to have over here? Same little curve, right? Then you've got the grill work that's coming across the front of your car. Let's go ahead and put this line in right here. Okay, so now I can get rid of this, right? I can get rid of that. I kind of need to know where that center is though, and you'll see why in a minute. I can erase here. Okay, so this is the under part of my car. I made it curve like this. Well, this needs to curve too. You're not going to have a corner there if that's all curving under. So there we go. Okay. Then I'm going to come up some. And usually this isn't real big. You know, it depends on how big a grill you want to put in. But it's usually lower, kind of that sleek design. And then this space is usually divided with some grill space. So I don't really need that anymore. So I'm going to get rid of some of that. Okay, all of the grill is horizontal lines. So if you just go in like this, check this out, and just draw a bunch of lines. You don't have to count them. You know, you just want it to look similar. It doesn't need to be exact because they're not going to use your drawing to design a car. So just so long as it looks similar to your car, it'll be great. Okay, see how cool that looks? Now these are vertical lines. In 2-point perspective, every vertical is always vertical. So vertical here, vertical here. This one would move over a little bit. Vertical there, and vertical there. And I'm just going to kind of go freehand in here and make sure that I make it those long enough. And there's my little grill in the front of the car. Now you're usually skipping a little space, usually angling in just a little bit here till we hit the hood, right? Okay, so I'm getting close here to putting my hood in. So here's the side of my car, and I'm just going to angle down into my hood. And there's the side sleekness of my car in 2-point perspective. Pretty darn cool. Well, here's something that's really important. You would never have a straight line here because your car's round. So this would have to curve. So you're going to need to curve here a little bit, okay? And then you're going to put in this line here too. And then all I need to do is just curve this around to here. And then we're going to come back across and run into that line. And there's the basics of my car. I basically put a car in a box in 2-point perspective to give me that 3D effect. Now, why leave that there? If you wanted to put like a little insignia, like what kind of car it was, you could put it there. Sometimes there's a little seam right here, or indentation on the top of a car. Sometimes there's a little venting here, things like that. Usually you would have some sort of lights wrapping around the car here. I'm not going to draw every car the same because I don't have to. You know, I'm just kind of making up a sports car, so I could be putting in an oval type light unit here, showing just a little piece of it coming through the other side. I might have some little lower lights down in this area here, those kind of little details. If you put any lights on the side of the car, okay, so let's just say you wanted to put like a little reflective light right there, you could do the same one in the back as long as you keep your ruler there and line them up. See how cool that is? And then when you go to draw like a horizontal line, maybe running through the car, I'll show you this one. So it could go like this, kind of running through the car like that. Now usually you get something kind of coming up before it goes indents into the window, and you come down this direction, and so you might have some cool line like that where this dents inward in this area. So it's actually looking pretty good here. I'm kind of liking the lines of my car. Now I did put a little spoiler on the back, and so just to know, if you wanted to put that little spoiler, you would angle. Now the top of it would go to the right vanishing point. So this line lines up, so that actually goes to the vanishing point. So this would need to go to the vanishing point too. So it's slightly angled downward, and then you could just put it in like that. The important thing to remember here is that there's usually a top on it, you know, for the wind. And so what you would do is you'd now go to your opposite vanishing point to get that line and let it disappear behind the car. So that, I think that looks pretty cool. You would actually show that if that's a solid surface, something similar to that. And this is where you would start erasing all your little detail lines on the back of yours, you know, getting them all in. Maybe put some reflective lines in here to show this is glass. Erase your horizon line running through your car. Maybe put in a little bit of the steering wheel. You can have a lot of fun now. Put in your hubcaps and your little lug nuts. Put in some fun details. You know, all those little details are what makes cars look really cool when people draw them. This one looks a little bit like it's floating. So I would actually take my pencil on the side here and give it some horizontal shading to make it look like it's more on the ground. See how that works? Now let's say you got this done and you said, you know, I really wish the back of the car was longer. All you do is extend this line and make it longer. Or I wish the front of the car was longer. You could just extend it, or you could just shorten it. But once you have a nice box, you can go from there. So remember that this part here is a little less than half. So the width is usually a little less than the length when you're drawing a car in perspective. And this is 1/3 and 2/3. So I actually started with this with a 1.5 inch. Where was my horizon line? It was right here at the 1/2 inch line. So I had a 1 inch and a 1/2 inch. Why did I put my vanishing points so far out? So my car didn't look as quickly enlarging. It looks a little sleeker because the lines are out. Can you draw them over here? Yes, but your car won't look as sleek. So you could play with the vanishing points and try them a little bit differently, you know. So you get to have fun with your tread, you know, all these fun things that make your car look really cool. Lots of cool shading. So I'm going to go back to the one that I did with the colored pencil so you can look at it. Basically the same thing. You can tell I put a little cool design there. Put a little bit of light blue in the windows. Shaded in where it indented on the side of the car. Just kind of had fun with it. So you can see how that one's... Oh, I forgot the rear view mirror. Don't forget that. There's a little rear view mirror here. So you can put that in. You know, you can see that these are a little bit different, but basically the same kind of idea. Okay? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. And if you really are into drawing cards, there's a lot of videos out there, but they're pretty technical. And I think most of them are really hard to find, to follow. So the key to drawing cards is what I showed you today, just some basics. Okay, I will get there to some other vehicles, but they're actually a little more complicated drawings than you think. Okay, so have a good day. And if you have any suggestions for me, don't forget to email me, bonjohnart@gmail.com. This was actually a request to do a car. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.